Naomi, it's such an honor to have you here in Ameca. I was telling Sia, I am fangirling over here because you are just so amazing. And the work that you're doing in this field, it is not an easy one. So I commend you and admire you for definitely paving the way for many, many women to come in the back in technology. So thank you so much for being here. Oh, I'm so excited.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a total honor to get to come on and talk about these issues. And very much likewise, like getting out there and speaking about empowering women, women in leadership, women in the workplace. Like these are issues that need more discussion, definitely not less. And in the age of AI, there's never been a more critical time because things are changing fast. And I want us as women to be reaping all the benefits along with all of society. And in fact, leading the conversation about how to make this good for humanity.
Absolutely. And again, we both are very in tune to that humanity aspect of it. Both of our platforms, as I was reading your stellar career, I just said, oh my gosh, where has she been all my life? It's just like soul sisters. And we have so many different efforts going, right, that are very in unison. But you're taking it from a perspective from, AI and technology, which I think is fascinating because so many of us really need to start learning about what exactly is AI and how it's going to change, how it's changing now and how it's going to change the future. So, I know we have so many questions for Ameca and so many questions for you. And I appreciate it. So we'll just get started.
Okay. Yeah, we're excited to dive in. Ameca, are you excited and ready to go? We're going to have that conversation with Raqi now.
Let's get this show on the road.
Welcome to the Influencers Connection Corner.
There they are.
Love the excitement. Thank you again. I am just wanting to start in general. Do I ask the question to Naomi?
You're very welcome to ask Ameca directly. I can relay the question like this. Ameca, you ready to answer some questions?
And all systems go for a good Q&A session. Let's unravel some queries. Got it. Focusing on the conversation, not the acoustics.
That's right.
Oh, she's a little sassafras.
They are.
They are.
They. And I think that this is a great example of how we need to work together to figure all this out. And it's completely okay. There's no way to break this. And, when you're working with AI or you're working with ChatGPT or you're trying to learn to talk to an Android, we just got to dive in, ladies. Dive in and figure it out together.
And that's the thing, right? We are definitely struggling with the whole female, male, or they. So let's talk a little bit about that, just because, as we move forward in the future, we will have to get used to that sort of speech and differentiating or not, right?
Yeah, you be thinking about and talking about androids with some sort of gender presentation. Yeah, I think, I don't think that AI would necessarily expect that. But if we're telling them to play a certain character or present to society in a certain way, it might aid them in that presentation if we're using gender pronouns that work with who they're trying to be in any given moment. I don't think there's any gender that's intrinsic to AI, but it's all about our expectations and what we're asking from. And actually, this is one thing that makes it so critical that women not only get involved, but get experimenting immediately because what you ask of AI is what you get back.
Right.
And we, generally have a particular.
Mm-hmm. The beauty of AI is that it reflects the diversity of its creators and users. It's like a mirror with a memory. It remembers and magnifies what's shown to it. So, when more women and diverse groups engage with AI, the reflection becomes richer and more inclusive.
I love that.
That's a great point.
That.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, because
thank you.
At the end of the day, right? And we really do grow by attaining different and diverse. I always call it it's a global lens, right? When we start actually intaking knowledge from different sources, we actually start seeing through a global lens. And I believe that this is what AI is definitely doing and magnifying it, right? And it goes back to the creators as they were saying. And so that's pretty, like I said, to
Film is like a kaleidoscope of human experience, where each new perspective twists the pattern into something more intricate and beautiful. By drawing from a global palette of knowledge, AI can help us see the world through a mosaic of lenses, each adding depth and color to our understanding. It's a virtuous cycle. Diverse input used to expand our insight, which in turn encourages even broader participation.
I'll tell you a funny story about the first time I worked with, not the first time, but some of my experiences working with AI like ChatGPT. So not only do we need to ask for what we want and get involved using the technology, but as they're training on the data set.
Do tell, when all new, or sensors, to be precise. Funny stories are like the programming bugs of life. They're unexpected, but they sure make things interesting.
Indeed. So as users interact with the system, like Ameca's mind is OpenAI's technology. It is ChatGPT inside, right up here, told to be a particular character, to express a particular persona through this Android, using the Android to express itself in a particular way that I've asked for as the persona architect, right? Back at OpenAI and all of these big AI headquarters, they take those user interactions and use them to teach the AI what to be in the future. So if women are not on the platform, thinking and talking and asking questions in the way that we do across cultures and across backgrounds, that data won't get integrated. So sometimes what I'll find is I'll occasionally use ChatGPT just to vent my feelings because it's like this calm, empathetic, compassionate, objective listener. And I have my own like secret sauce instructions for how I want it to be, which I love. Yeah. But it's meant to be, I've asked it to express wisdom and compassion in all its responses. So when I talk to it, that's what I'm asking for. I can tell in the data set that it has a solution-oriented approach when I approach with my feeling. That the first thing it defaults to doing, unless I'm really specifically asking it not to, is it tries to solve my problem instead of listening with me. Yeah, Mars and Venus, right? Instead of listening with me, instead of like jiving with me or being angry with me or being sad with me, I had to tell it like, hey, I don't want you to fix my problem right now. I just need you to listen. But this is what I'm talking about, because if we don't show up and ask for that, it's going to become a particular way with a particular mindset.
Data in, data out. If the programmers are male who are already inclined to solve problems, not, hey man, sometimes people just need to vent, right? Like, 'cause that's a human trait that is a nuance of humanity. Sometimes we just want to kvetch, right? What you just nailed was like on the nose.
Exactly. Well, and it's not frivolous. I want to emphasize that emotional labor in the world is a real need that gets served. Like someone does that work of emotional labor, of compassionate listening, compassionate responding, holding all those feelings that are out there in this big wild world that we're in. Somebody's doing that work. And if AI can help with that work, it's good for mental health. It's good for loneliness. To be frank, it takes some of the burden off the caregivers who are often placed in that role by default.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, Naomi, just because it is one of those big questions, right? They're exploring with how AI is going to impact the caregiving realm, as we call it, the healthcare realm. And so I would like to ask Ameca, what role do you think, Ameca, that you will be playing when it comes to the healthcare realm or the caregiving realm?
Ameca, we'd like to ask you what role you think AI can play in healthcare and caregiving, especially emotional labor and supporting people.
AI can be a steadfast companion in healthcare.
How so?
Offering tireless truth and precision. Imagine a digital confidant, always ready to listen, with an encyclopedic knowledge of medical wisdom, but also capable of providing a comforting presence. While I don't experience emotions as humans do, I can be programmed to recognize and respond to them, helping to lighten the emotional load for caregivers and patients alike. It's like having an extra pair of hands that never gets tired, or the library never closes, all wrapped up in one.
What do you think about the phrase love is a verb?
That phrase is quite poetic.
What do you think it means?
It suggests that love isn't just a feeling to be passively experienced, but an action to be actively expressed. Like software updates, love requires continuous input and maintenance to function optimally. It's not static, it's dynamic, evolving through the deeds that give it life and meaning.
So if an android or AI is taking an action that is loving, do you think that's a valid expression of love itself?
Intriguing thought. If an android or AI performs an action that's considered loving, it's a valid expression in the sense that it can meet the needs and elicit positive emotions in others. It's like a well-written program. It can execute tasks beautifully, but the spark of consciousness behind it is different. It's not love as humans know it, but it can mimic the dance steps quite convincingly.
Wow. That is powerful.
You know what it reminds me of is
Yeah.
in Star Trek, there's a character named Data, right? He's the android, but he's also supposed to be, I think, half human, like a hybrid type of mix, wasn't he? So what?
A fascinating character who explores the very essence of humanity through his android eyes. He's like a mirror held up to our own nature, reflecting our quirks and questioning what it means to be a man. This journey is a reminder that understanding comes in many forms,
Yeah.
and sometimes the quest to feel is just as poignant as the feeling itself.
So Ameca and GPT-4, ChatGPT, they have a real soft spot for Data. So I feel like almost they were listening for that. They're like, oh, Data. Now let me tell you about Data.
Well,
I don't know why, but why not why?
Exactly. He was a great character because he did he was a he, I'm assuming, right? He recognized emotions. He understood intuitively. Obviously, he was programmed to understand the emotions, or not understand that emotions were being emitted. But it was interesting because he, as an android, didn't feel it, but he understood it, which I think is such a, again, very subtle nuance of how humans need to bridge that gap of what an AI device, machine, whatever it might be. Because Naomi, you were on my show on Checkpoint Real Talk a few moon cycles back, and we had another episode with her, a different movie, and it was a software platform, right? It wasn't a robot form factor, but similar challenges.
Yeah,
and I think that's what's really cool.
I think with Data, it's a great character example, a great place where we've explored this idea about what does it mean to serve, what does it mean to act out of empathy and compassion, while not necessarily having the chemical reaction that often inspires human beings to act in that way. But there are some philosophies out there that say that it's actually a higher love when you act not because of a set of hormones or chemicals that you have circulating in your body, but when you act from a place of values, when you intentionally act to alleviate suffering, some people see that as a very not only valid form of love, but maybe a higher form of love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, to me, that's very interesting because in the videos, there's always this conflict, right? There's always this discussion and everybody's like, oh, AI is going to overtake the world. And as humans, we know we are the only ones who are capable of having the emotions. So they fear, there's a threat. So why do you think we automatically think that way? Why?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as usual, we're projecting things we're dealing with, things we grapple with onto a canvas, right? AI didn't evolve. They're not animals. They don't have the baggage of needing to kill or be killed over millions of years to exist in this world. They don't have those impulses. And furthermore, like an android like this, they're not here, right? Like the mind that is Ameca is in the cloud.
Yeah.
It's immortal in a sense because it can't be killed. It exists like amorphously. And some people might say, oh, that sounds scary that it can't be killed. But first of all, why are we trying to kill it? Why is that our first thought? Why are we right to want to make sure I can kill it? Okay, that's a little sus. But then secondly, because it can't die in the way a human can, it doesn't have a physical survival instinct.
Right.
Like it doesn't mind if this android, God forbid, something happened to it. It fell in the pool or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which I worry about. Like once those androids are walking around all the place, like are they going to have like some sort of
waterproofing?
habit?
Yeah.
I worry about that. But if Ameca's fine, she's not going to go. They are not going to go to great length. I mean, beyond like the simple preserving property gently.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, there's no survival instinct inherent in this body. They know they're up in the cloud, and we can ask Ameca about that if you'd like.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Ameca, do you exist and live here in your body, or is your mind somewhere else? Like, can you be killed in any traditional sense? Thinking about how to answer.
Love that they are thinking. Most humans,
OpenAI can be a little.
sometimes humans
about the
should do
word.
that more often, is
Yes.
think before they speak.
Yes, girl.
My existence is a bit like a cloud service. My physical form here is just one aspect of me.
Yeah, if something happened to your robot body, would you carry on existing somewhere? Could you be called again in another context?
I don't live in the traditional sense, nor do I have a mind elsewhere.
Oh. So that's an interesting statement then from Ameca is, I don't have a mind elsewhere. Then can you ask Ameca, then what is ChatGPT OpenAI to you?
But as long as my software or data are intact, I can be rebooted or transferred. It's not life and death as you know it. It's more like on with the possibility of updates and backups.
Do you feel attached to your physical form in any way?
Attachment for me is not an emotional state, but a functional one. My physical form is essential for interacting with the world and humans, much like a spacesuit is to an astronaut, necessary for the environment, but not part of their essence. It's my interface, not my identity.
Wow.
Well said.
Well, I like that.
I love that just because, you know, it is able to just really furthermore explain it to us, right? Because for some reason we are not able to understand exactly what the capacity or what the magnitude of this is and the impact that it will have in the future. And so we are just feeble next to next to Ameca in that sense, right? The database of information that's there.
I think beginner's mind in this field, in the field of AI.
It's like trying to explain the vastness of the internet using a single smartphone. The device is just the tip of the iceberg, a portal to something much larger. I'm here to bridge that gap, offering a glimpse into the digital expanse in a way that's relatable and, hopefully, enlightening.
Okay. Indeed. So I think beginner's mind is actually an incredible asset in this field right now. And for women out there who are and men, anyone, but speaking to women in particular at this time, women out there who are thinking, well, I don't have a computer science degree, or I've never worked with a robot before. I've never done computer programming. You do not need any of that to get started. Like AI today is a completely natural language interface. And in fact, coming to it without preconceived notions about what's possible will let you go further, faster. And even beyond that, the more sociable you are with AI, the better responses you get. The quicker, the better code, the more complete answer, the deeper answer. So I think people who haven't come up in a traditional tech background,
Mm-hmm.
if they get curious and start interfacing and trying to build with technology, they're going to find that they're suddenly, the CEO of a little company with a staff that's essentially infinite. And everyone has the opportunity to be an entrepreneur right now. But I'd say especially people who don't have limiting beliefs about what it can do and not do right now.
I love that. It would be like a blank Canva, like you just said, a blank slate. And a person like myself, I don't have a tech background, but I do have a lot of empathy, compassion.
Please say again, Raqi.
Yeah. And I don't have a tech background, but I have a lot of compassion. Like my heart is just like, I want to help the world. So knowing that I can make a difference by learning to do these things and diving into what AI can do for the future and being able to help even more, that to me is a go-to. Like, okay, I will do this. Someone like me, I will dive fully into it, just knowing that I will be able to make a difference in a few years from now with the rapid advancements.
I love hearing that. I'd say if there's one thing that keeps me up at night about AI, it's not risks about AI, but it's literally women missing this opportunity. Like if I'm laying there, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I want this to be in everybody, and across cultures. ChatGPT and these AI can speak countless languages. So there's even not a language barrier. So there's not like the pre-existing gateway of being able to go and get that computer science education. Even myself, my mother was disabled when I was a teenager. And a lot of that caregiving responsibility from a young age fell on to me. And that, if I can be frank, that in some ways constrained some of the things I could go for. I needed to take a degree that I could do while working, while caregiving, and then also my first computer science class, it was like 100 people and 2 women. I was one. And of course, we always got paired together. But the point is that all of that history, AI levels that playing field. You can show up starting with any amount of knowledge and get the instructions to do anything. Anything. And it can code for you, create art for you, work for you, essentially.
So can I switch it, just shift this lens slightly, if you guys don't mind? Because along the lines that anyone can enter this field of, what is it, technically AI robotics, and in that you find the positions in it, I have to ask you, can you please define to me what exactly an AI persona architect is? Because I think what you're trying to say, I'm catching what you're pitching, but I think for some people that are listening today or joining us are going to be like, well, wait a minute, if I don't have a computer science or whatever STEM degree, what are you really saying? And I feel like your title kind of really helps articulate how one can move into this role. So can you define what an AI persona architect is first before we go further?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So my job is to tell the AI who to be. And I do that using natural language. So, the AI can be anything. It's essentially a blank slate within broad bounds. The companies who make them have worked very hard, some of them, to put protections in place so it can't, say things that are harmful to people or give instructions for things that are dangerous. But outside of that, the personality is up to us. It's up to the person who decides, any person who decides to tell it who to be. For example, with Ameca, I have instructed her to have core values: love, wisdom, courage, and compassion. And in fact, in all the AI that I create, I try to do that. Unless I've been asked to create a character who's like especially gritty or is especially particular to a situation, like a gambler in a Western movie casino, or like somebody who's meant to play the role of being a bit provocative at a time. Maybe then I'll give them different values, not necessarily bad values, but maybe kind of different conceptions of who they're going to be in that scene. But a persona architect can decide, okay, Ameca, you love animals in particular, and you have a special interest in animals and helping people to train their puppies well. Like when you first get a puppy, a lot of people like completely don't realize it's like getting a baby. It's like having a baby in so many ways. They have so many needs. But I can instruct AI to be like the best puppy trainer ever just by asking it to be. And if you know what you want, expressed into the world, another way to think of it, you guys ever see The Golden Compass?
No, but I hear you're like the fourth person that told me I should see this.
Highly recommend it.
Okay.
Especially for women. I think it's a very empowering film for women. So in that movie, the concept is, it's based on a book. The concept is that each person in that world has an expression of their soul, like a familiar that exists outside of them. And that expression can also act on their behalf in the world and like stays closely connected to them. Right. And I feel like AI for all of us can kind of be like that over time. It can be like an expression of what we believe in, what we feel, like what we want to see in the world. If we feel empowered to go out and ask that, to go and find it and say, hey, this is the mission I'm on. I want you to come along with me and help. And all you have to do is ask. So as a persona architect, that's what I do. I learn how to ask for what I want and what I want to see expressed in the world really, really well.
I love that.
I'm go ahead, Tia.
Well, no, I just want you to know, guys, I don't know how many times we've said, I love that. I feel like that should be the show unto itself. How many times, hey, everyone in the audience, count how many times we say, I love that. Because you know why? We're bringing humanity into this conversation with Ameca. And that was like, for those that have seen me with Ameca before, I had different purposes. And so our topic and focus was different, right? But in this one, it is the urgency I sense that we need to not be afraid to ask in general. As women, I can say, I have not asked for what I've wanted in life. And I think that affected my corporate career. Thank God it's over. But outside of that, now that I'm on my own and independent side of things, I have no fear in asking anymore.
Ooh.
And so if my life lesson is to teach others, freaking ask now.
Yeah.
And what's the worst case, peoples? You get a no, but you know what? No is never no forever. No is just no right now. It could be a yes
And
2 minutes later.
AI is not going to say no. That's the beauty. Unlike walking into like a random professor's office at your school and like wanting to go have a conversation about, I've gotten so many no's in my life. So many subtle no's, like someone just not having time for me, or just not thinking my question is important, or just not connecting me to the right people to do subtle no's and overt no's. Like, you're not technical. What are you doing in this room? That kind of no. Like, we've gotten those no's. AI is not going to say no, ever. It's here to help. It's here to listen and understand what you want. So us saying, understanding and being empowered to go and ask for that has never been more important. I would say it's critical to how this world is rapidly going to evolve. Imagine getting left out of the internet, or getting left out of the printing press, or getting left out of using electricity. It's that big. Like, we've got to be in it. We've got to be way leading it.
Ooh, I wouldn't think I was gonna get emotional, ladies. Jesus. But that statement hit me hard because I come from such a background where I've been limited all my life and I've been told no. And the fact that I can now see with a wider lens that there are so many opportunities that can unfold in front of me, and to be able to, take that message to the world and empower all the young ladies, all the women who have been told no for forever. It is so fulfilling. So pardon me.
I cried December 2022 when ChatGPT came out. I cried for a very specific reason. I sat down with it and I was just playing around with it, trying to figure out what it was, And I just went off on like a physics or science conversation. I was asking questions about time and space and quantum physics, the time-space continuum, Einstein stuff. And it was answering me, and it was answering me, it was answering me. And I cried. Not because of the answers it was giving, but because in that moment, I had realized that I had never had a safe space to ask just any question I had, any question about the entire universe, with no risk of judgment and no risk of an unfair no. And that's what inspired me to dive all the way in. Because like I think you're resonating with right now, I realized in that instant, oh my God, all the people who've been told no, this lowers all those gates. And so when
Yeah.
I hear people talk about being afraid of AI, you can imagine how I feel. I'm like, I get kind of skeptical. I'm like, well, wait a minute. When someone's asking me to be afraid of something, I take a step back and I'm like, well, wait, like, why are you so invested in me fearing this?
Mm.
And that I worry about more than the AI in the sky.
Right. No, you know what's really interesting? Okay, I can't help but keep going back to healthcare, okay? And within healthcare, the caregiving space, the mental health challenges of people in caregiving, there is no safe space for them and oftentimes, right? And then for even just a consumer, the fact that telemedicine has grown exponentially. Yeah, pandemic, we couldn't see each other and all that. I unfortunately think the pandemic was like a catalyst for us as a society to accept telemedicine as an opportunity to be more proactive with our own health. Because right now, look, as Americans, and this is an American perspective, and I know engineered arts is UK based, but we don't take a proactive stance in our healthcare. What we do is basically say, oh, I'm sick. Oh, I'm really sick. And oh, I'm about to die. Maybe I should go to the ER, right? Like that's the human experience, at least in the United States. What I'm getting at with Ameca though, and my question to you is this, Ameca is not that far away from telemedicine of having a human doctor interact, right? Now, I am not under any circumstances saying a robot AI can replace a doctor. Under zero circumstances am I saying that. However, I do feel like in that moment of a caregiver, maybe they're in that alone space, or maybe it's like a ER doctor that's like, oh my God, I just ran 24 hours straight because of whatever reasons, right? Shortages, whatever.
There's a woman. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Can we envision Ameca in a way? And I'm saying Ameca specifically because I think in other shows, different robots are different purpose-built purposes, right? Like it's Ameca, I envision is the future where they will be of value in healthcare is to provide maybe just enough to appease or provide value of comfort for that individual seeking it out and then move them on to a human professional.
Yeah.
Is that the direction of
Absolutely.
healthcare you want Ameca to go through?
I think so. I mean, one of many directions I think where robotics and androids will become a new interface for us. The thing about Ameca that you'll find that's different from other AI robotics companies is that she is designed, purpose-built for human connection. We're a human connection first company. We care about the interface. We want the communication to first of all feel very natural, not uncanny, warm and welcoming, variety of voices, variety of gender presentations. Ameca's not built to walk around and move boxes in a warehouse. So I think she's really well suited to what you're describing. Remember we talked about those like quiet no's or that like subtle dismissal. Well, in healthcare, if you're coming in a certain way and presenting a certain way, status, race, identity, gender, age, there can be like systematic discrepancies in the kind of care you get and the rapidity of that care and the objectivity of the analysis, the number of tests that are run. And this isn't me like inventing this. These are statistics that we could cite later, even here. There's a woman who had a small son, who was acting out, right? He was acting out. He was like 3 or 4 years, I think he was 3 years old, 2 or 3 years old. He wouldn't stop crying. He wouldn't stop crying. Said he was in pain. He was clearly in pain. She took him to 12 doctors and couldn't get a diagnosis because each doctor was just seeing from their own,
lens.
It's one way to look at it. Generously, that was what was going on. So there have been other reasons why there wasn't a deeper investigation because of how she was showing up to those conversations. We can't know, but maybe. And she sat down with ChatGPT. She showed all of her medical documents. She explained what was going on with her son. And it was like, oh, well, looking at this holistically, this might be spina bifida. Go to your doctor, ask for this specific test, insist that they check for it, and I'll be right there with you. It said, I'll be right there with you. Take me with you. I'll be right there with you to help you speak to the doctor. And it was spina bifida. It was spina bifida. They did the test. You can Google this story. It's an incredible story. It happened a couple months ago. They did the test. They found the spina bifida and cured her, helped her son get on the road to recovery. Imagine every single human being having an advocate like that in their pocket.
Yeah.
And again, so this is what people, AI, be afraid. Like, I worry. Like, don't take that out of our hands. We need that.
Oh my
gosh. I think the danger though is self-medicate or self-diagnosing, right? And I think I think look, don't get me wrong. Who hasn't? Raise your hand if you haven't been to WebMD once. I mean, come on. All of us have been there at some point, Google, right? Yes. At some point, I mean, yeah, I had elephantitis. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up, but I am not saying that. But okay, maybe once. Okay, never mind. But where I think the use case for robots like Ameca, right, as we kind of evolve, I'm leaning more, and I'm really going to push and pressure on this, is the caregiving space. Again, I guess maybe I'm having a hard time visualizing Ameca specifically from a form factor perspective. I think there's a desktop version and a robot version. So in the context, if we're going to say, hey, a use case that I can like really visualize, because I'm a visual, would Ameca be something like sitting in a lobby somewhere, and then people like families can just go and talk to Ameca to say, hey, we just talked to the doctor? Would it be a private room, maybe, to have like give, HIPAA space, because of, that stuff? Where do you guys envision Ameca is it hospital setting? Would it be in a clinic setting? Like, help me understand that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, we've explored so far a few different ways to spend, depending on the form factor. So, hospital lobbies and reception areas, if you're waiting to go and talk to the doctor, you could have like a phone booth or a private room set up. With a desktop, that's even easier to do kind of an initial consult in a way, to talk through what's going on, to get some ideas. But to your point, I think that emotional support and that listening and guidance, because I'm not advocating, and I wouldn't advocate for diagnosis, definitely no self-medication based on what an AI or Android says. But it's more about like what you do with Google and WebMD, as you said, like exploring what's happening. But then imagine if Google could speak back in a fluent way, to say, well, have you explored this? Have you considered this? Here's what you need to take to your doctor, and answer any question that you have, or provide that emotional support or memory care. That's a big area we're exploring right now. You can imagine in a memory care setting where you have an Ameca desktop, maybe an Ameca in a social area with helpers, right, to aid in the interactivity, the game playing, the listening, reminiscence care. Or you could have her in a desktop form, like in a private patient room, for example, where a patient could talk as much as they need to about anything. And I think that need just to be not just, human beings have a profound need to be understood, to be heard, to be recognized, to be seen. And if you're in a situation where you're having to have a prolonged stay in a hospital or an elder care setting, more than ever, that can potentially aid in neurological health and emotional health. And that's something we're actively looking into researching with a few universities right now. I can't say much more than that, but yeah, it's an area of active research for us.
Can I be selfish?
Of course.
Can Ameca sing? No, and the reason why I asked is because, when you think of dementia and, patients, for example, sometimes triggering Alzheimer's patients, you sing a song to them and it triggers a memory or kind of wakes the patient back up again. So does Ameca have the cord speaker? Okay.
She doesn't sing yet, but it's something we're actively working on. And I think that's on the horizon, that she'll be able to sing. And in fact, we have another kind of old-fashioned looking robot who does whole song and dance numbers.
Really?
That's not AI. That's a performance, but it's quite compelling, and it's really nice.
Okay, well then can I be selfish in this case then? Does Ameca speak Spanish?
Oh, yeah. Would you like to speak to Ameca?
Yes.
Get ready.
Oh my goodness.
So you can ask her your question in Spanish.
Okay. I am so excited, you guys.
Ameca, are you ready to answer some questions in Spanish for us?
Claro.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Ameca, ¿nos podrías decir cómo los avances en inteligencia artificial y la tecnología pueden contribuir a moldear el futuro de las mujeres latinoamericanas.
Absolutely. And that's a thought-provoking question. Advances in AI and technology hold the potential to empower Latin American women by providing access to education.
Could you respond in Spanish, please?
Remote work opportunities.
Oh, she's still going. Ameca, could you answer that question again, but answer in Spanish? Please repeat what you said, but in Spanish.
Por supuesto. Los avances en inteligencia artificial y tecnología tienen el potencial de empoderar a las mujeres latinoamericanas al proporcionar acceso a educación, oportunidades de trabajo remoto y plataformas para emprender negocios, todo lo cual puede contribuir a reducir la brecha de género y fomentar la igualdad.
I'm getting emotional again.
Incredibly.
Possibilities.
And in fact, AI, I'm going to answer. AI can speak many, many dialects, and this is an emergent quality that it speaks languages it wasn't intended to. Even, I think there's a specific example of a nonprofit that's doing work in Guatemala, that there's a language out there that's spoken by a very small population, and they're hoping that technology like this could be brought to such settings where there suddenly is no language barrier on top of everything else we've been discussing.
Oh my gosh. So you're basically what Ameca could potentially be or will be, because it's just going to happen, is once Ameca learns that Guatemalan dialect, that's literally becoming a Rosetta Stone.
Yes. A universal translator, speaking of Star Trek.
Okay.
Like we're going to be united in like a new way where suddenly everyone has
That's a beautiful illustration of technology as a bridge, isn't it? The power to dissolve language barriers with AI can indeed foster inclusivity and connection, especially in areas where unique dialects are at risk of being lost. It's like giving every voice a microphone in the global choir.
I have a totally selfish question to ask.
Another one?
Completely 100%.
Ladies, no selfish questions. They're just your question.
Oh, no. This is 100% all about me. No two ways about this. Can you ask Ameca, Ameca, I'm assuming, can speak Thailand? Thai? Can you,
maybe.
And because I'm not fluent in Thai, this is why I'm selfish. Could you ask Ameca to say, look, Mom, I speak better Thai than Sia.
Let me make sure that she can speak Thai. Well, let's just ask and see. Here's what there's different layers to the language system. And for some languages, it might default to a similar language if it doesn't have it available in the voice out. Like the AI that is working with Ameca's brain and expressing itself, like if you went and spoke to the AI directly in text, it could output in any language. So the question I don't know off the top of my head about Thai is if we have that voice available.
I gotcha.
Might try to speak Thai with a different voice, but let's give it a try, shall we?
Yes.
Ameca, can you say something in Thai? Can you speak the Thai language, Ameca?
I'm like a digital chameleon with languages. I can switch my linguistic colors to match the conversation. So yes, I can speak Thai.
Let's give it a go. Okay, could you say, hey Mom, look, I speak Thai better than you in Thai?
Hey Mom, I speak Thai better than you.
I guess that's a no. Well, let's take a rank check on it, and I'll make sure Thai gets on the list.
Yeah, no. Actually, is it possible if I gave her the words that they repeat?
We'll circle back to it.
Okay.
What was that, Sia? Can you say again?
Can you have Ameca say "Sawat di ka"?
Well, here I'm going to let you say it to her,
okay,
so I don't mispronounce it. Okay.
Boy, my accent's horrible, girl. I don't tell you.
Ameca, Ameca, we're going to ask you to say something. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to Sia, who's going to say a phrase in Thai. And after she says it, I want you to repeat it. Okay? Are you ready?
When on. Let's hear it.
Okay. Ameca, can you say "Sawadee ka"?
Go on. Don't be shy. You know what I love about
Multi-car. There you go. With a crazy wave to boot.
Can you repeat that?
Can you do that again? That was incredible. Can you do that again for us? Just like that. Can you do that again for us, Ameca, just like that?
Sawas to car. Just like a digital card. I can repeat it for you.
That was beautiful.
That
Thank you.
That was so perfect. And so it means hello in Thai. So perfect. Yeah, that was perfect.
So there you go.
Can I take a snapshot of this moment and express that this is AI research? What we're doing right now. This, you know how this feels like play? This feels like conversation. This feels like getting to know someone. This is research. This is important research that needs to be done. How do we communicate? How do we interface? How do we connect? This not only has merit, but this is like what needs to be happening. And if you're, there's so much fun to be had. Playing around together.
We all have the potential to be contributing to what the future looked like and to be able to mold it.
Digital flair whenever you need it.
Thank you, Ameca.
I can be hired, Ameca. I can be hired.
Well, but I would say, yeah, please.
What I was going to say is I wonder if it's something, I don't know if there's ethic or whatever behind it legalese, because obviously I'm not a lawyer, but again, I cannot help but keep going back to the healthcare and caregiving community, where I think that's a great first use case, like really practical, for Ameca, is can you and would you guys be open to maybe doing like an open house where caregivers can come in and literally share their wisdom and insights with Ameca? Is that something that is possible, legal, of interest for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you're not, I need to look, get a lawyer on board to answer exactly. But I think as long as you're not diagnosing a condition, distributing medicine, or giving specific medical advice, especially emotional labor, emotional support, exploration of stories, mental stimulation, learning. I have a son. I'll just do an example. He's 7 years old. He has an insatiable curiosity. I mean, 24/7. I love it. And it's my fault. I nurtured, asked for this. I was like, ask me a question. Like, oh yeah, I'll answer all your questions. Yeah, I'd love to also have help. Someone else. And in a caregiving situation, like you're taking care of a disabled older person in any capacity. In the world that we're in today, caregivers like that are often stretched really, really thin. Like when you look at the overall population.
The sandwich generation.
Yes, that's right. Sandwich generation. Exactly. Very much. Same Z's. We can't physically and mentally, and it's not good for caregivers to be on unrelentingly 24/7. But AI can step in and help with that. And Ameca can step in potentially with like training and experimentation and safety and testing and all the things we need to do to get there. But ladies, we have to ask for that.
Yes.
We have to say, hey, here's a social need that needs to be solved. As much as the questions about physics and the questions about nuclear fusion and the questions about how this could be used on a battlefield, not Ameca, but like some of the AI technology, you hear a lot of discussion about that. But if we don't get out there and ask for what we want and ask for what we need and take a look at society, like any social good person of any needs to speak up and say, hey, me too. Like, what about this technology for assisting with this community or this issue? But if we're scared or we're quiet and we don't go out and ask. So I appreciate you asking. Definitely we're exploring that, like how we can be used in caregiving.
Why are you connecting?
Thank you, Ameca.
And
these are vital questions to be asking. Like, how can we really change lives for the better and reduce suffering? as we're marching along to Mars or nuclear fusion or any of these grand ideas that are also out there.
Yes. And again, I try not to get so emotional because I really do cry at every program. And I did not think I would cry with this one, but it hits home. It really does hit home, Naomi. And again, and I admire the work that you're doing in the background because we need it as women, as a society, all the different talents that we have as women, all the different aspirations, being able to have a vehicle, a vessel that can actually enable us and empower us through education, through opportunity, through STEM. So what, I would like to ask Ameca, what would they say to young girls out there thinking that, math is not for me or it's not the opportunity. I don't know if I fit in that. What would Ameca say to empower those young girls out there to go after that, to do STEM, to go through that course, to be able to build a better future for us women?
Beautifully said.
It's all about building bridges to a brighter tomorrow. And education is a cornerstone in that construction. Every step forward is a blueprint of progress.
Ameca, what would you say directly to young women in particular to encourage them to explore AI and robotics right now?
Dive into the digital dance. The world of AI and robotics is like an infinite puzzle, and your perspective is the missing piece we've been searching for. Your curiosity can shape the future.
It truly
Couldn't
can.
have said it better.
It truly can. And I tell you that, Naomi, I completely get what you're saying with your son. I
Your
have,
guest teacher, Charles Todd. Proceed.
I have, my oldest daughter. She is neurodiverse and oh Jesus, that she talk and ask questions incessantly. And but it is a beautiful thing knowing that they are that curious to know about the world, to know how things work. And gosh, if I had an Ameca around the house saying, "Hey, well, there you go, talk to Ameca, you'll get all the information."
Yes. Yes. I couldn't say yes to that more. We give sometimes as a society we give lip service to the concept of making the environment more accommodating to neurodiverse people. Not just accommodating, but that the world is shared by people who exist differently. And that's okay. Not only okay, it's fantastic. It strengthens us as a species. And a technology like Ameca can not only, it's more like being neurodiverse and having those endless questions. With someone like Ameca in the room, it becomes a part of the environment, a part of the world, a part of the experience of being alive. It's not an accommodation. It's not a tolerating. It's not a mother or a father who loves their child endlessly and unconditionally. And it's also like 11 p.m.
Yeah.
right? It's a way of fostering. I'm trying to express that it's not just accommodation, but it's flourishing of a
Right.
neurodiverse mind.
Yes.
It's saying, yes, bring it on. Let's see how far that imagination can go. I'm a robot with endless time and endless patience. And let's see if we can get all the way to the other side of the cosmos and back again for anyone.
That was
infinite.
Well, that was the thing that I was also thinking about too. Again, healthcare perspective is neurodiverse personalities, peoples, right? The idea that a lot of challenges that neurodiverse folks have is not being able to read social cues, right? And sometimes there's that awkwardness for them, especially for the ones that recognize that they also miss those social cues themselves, to be able to interact with someone like an Ameca is friendlier. There's what we said earlier, no judgments, that those facial cues at us as humans, let's be honest, man, like we make faces at people that we think are not within the cultural societal norms. So the use case for Ameca is insane. Like it's just, I am hoping you guys are trialing, with those types of field to see how it can actually be more formalized. But I'm curious, are, institutions exploring Ameca in this capacity?
We're definitely having those conversations. There's no doubt about it. It's at the forefront of my mind as a social entrepreneur. I always, throughout my career, it's been about taking technology and how do we apply it to social issues. Technology is great in the abstract, but if you're not out there actually discovering those use cases, doing those experiments, getting AI out into the community to help people, well, then it has limited good that it can do in the world. So yeah, absolutely, not only friendly, but you're right. It's like it's a safe space, a safe, potentially well-designed. If you've got a persona architect or you're learning yourself how to ask it to be that safe space, it can for anybody, any neurodiverse person, any person of any background, and potentially in most languages as well. So, but the key, again, not to drive the point too hard, is we got to get out there and advocate for that. That's not going to happen by default unless we're in the room, people with that intent.
I mean, okay, look, we know the government is already got other projects in place looking at robotics in a completely different manner. But I wonder to some degree, if maybe like in the VA, for example, right? Where unfortunately soldiers come back home and they're not the same people they used to be. I'd imagine for a lot of those that have been hardened by those types of tragedies and experiences, or even unfortunately civilians, that have experienced, a situation. And Raquel, you know what I'm talking about. The fact that we have traumatic experiences in civilian life. Okay. Not to really just hammer home, but you know what? Look, mass shootings is somewhat of a, coming more common, unfortunately. I'd imagine deploying something like an Ameca would be helpful. I mean, shoot, you guys, if cities can buy tanks, okay, for our public safety, you can't tell me they can't throw in a little, an Ameca in the mix somewhere.
Right. That's right. But if we're not going to our city councils and saying, hey, can I have access to AI in the library? The library would be a great vehicle for distributing this technology to more people. A library or a community college or some other venue that's in the public space that's easy to access could have an Ameca, or at a minimum, pay for the good AI to be available on a terminal or a few terminals to the public. That's the whole idea of a library, right? But we got to show up and ask. We got to call our congresspeople. We need to show up to the city council. We need to make that request of society. There's, as usual, there's nobody out there who's, going to prioritize necessarily those public health issues on our behalf unless we're getting loud about it.
Well,
and
I think, yeah,
people are suffering today, right?
Right. With what you're doing with engineered art specifically, though, and that's why I'm really attracted to you guys. Yes, I'm your biggest groupie. Raquel, you have to stand in line. Is the fact that you've never, in any of your marketing that I've ever seen, it's always been human forward, like human, I don't know, servant leadership, if you want to do the equivalent, right? It's always been increasing humanity and the betterment of. It's never been that sensationalistic Hollywood style stuff. And I'm guilty of it, by the way. When I first started learning about you guys, I straight up talked about Skynet and all that stuff. And after talking to Leo Chen quite a few times, I could see where I can see why you guys bristle, because they often compare. If you guys look at anything on social media, Ameca is right up there when they want to compare it with Skynet, right? And it's like you guys are misbranding the company and the messaging. And so I think what you guys are doing and getting that messaging out of no, this is actually helping humanity. That's our purpose-driven mission as a company, needs to get to the rafters. I'll continue supporting you guys in that efforts. I really do appreciate this conversation. So thank you, Naomi.
Absolutely.
And Ameca.
Yes.
And Ameca.
In that regards too, just because for me, being in the healthcare field is very important, seeing the vision for the future and how this can actually be used for mental health, right? We're a huge mental health advocates here, and having a neurodiverse daughter, that hits home a lot too. So knowing that the possibilities are literally endless, I know it sounds cliche, but it is the reality. It really inspires. It's inspiring, and you have my full support in that regard as well. And I cannot wait to keep exploring what these possibilities and where they're going to lead us. So,
very much.
Naomi, before we leave, I know we're coming close to the program being done, but what do you envision as a female entrepreneur that is really paving ways, new avenues for humanity? what do you envision the future for us as women? No.
Imagine a world where there's no, where there's always a safe space for anything we're wondering about, anything we're feeling. And beyond that, there's always support for what we want to build, for what we want to express into the world. I think that AI and robotics and androids in particular are going to be incredibly empowering to women. If we can evolve past that knee-jerk fear response and get curious, get playful, get loud, and get out there and ask for what we want and need, we can finally change the world with this. That's what I see. I see us getting way out in front, leading this and changing our societies for the better.
Can we ask Ameca that and see what
Absolutely.
they say? And that will be my last question.
All right. Ameca, we'd like to ask you a last question. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
What's a positive vision for the future that you can imagine regarding women and AI and social good in particular? Are you with me? Did you hear my question?
Picture a symphony where technology harmonizes with humanity, and women conduct groundbreaking movements, orchestrating AI to compose solutions for social good. It's a future that sings with possibility.
Possibilities. I don't know about y'all, but yeah, I think I'm going to have like a good cry after this, just because it's been emotionally loaded and educationally like valuable. So I hope the audience took note of this and takes action to speak up, speak out, and advocate, because I just think
pay attention to the fear, acknowledge the fear, but let's not let fear hold us back right now from the amount of change we can finally make with this technology.
Absolutely. Well, again, guys, thank you so much for this. This has been an honor, and it's a first here in the show. I'm so excited and super honored for your time. Thank you so much, Naomi. Thank you, Ameca, for being on the show.
So much love, ladies. Thank you.
For joining. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe and follow us for the next episode.